Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Daily Glow Up podcast. Today is a big one. It's a lot of information to take in. I have quite a few notes here because it's a little bit wild, but quantum jumping and quantum leaping is something that you've probably heard around and about on the socials or, through the people that you follow on manifesting and things like that. And when I first heard it, it was a little bit woo-woo for me, a little bit out of my comfort zone. And the more I dived into it, the more it absolutely shifted my whole entire concept of how the world works. And I first really dived into this about 2, maybe 3 years ago. And I went all in. I read all the quantum leaping books and did all of the science. I even read books on physics and quantum physics because that really started to just sit with me. I even get goosebumps even thinking about it now. It's absolutely wild, this stuff. We really should be taught about this more. And I do think that the reason I find this hard to share is that it takes a certain way to explain it to people for it to click, because we have been brought up for so long having a perception of reality and having an understanding in our logical minds about how we can get things. And that's typically you work hard and then the effort for working hard gets you results and you'll see results from that. But when you start to actually understand the mechanics of reality, when you start to understand quantum jumping and quantum leaping and just quantum physics in general, you start to realize that it's not actually linear like that, where you work for something and you get something. Time isn't real in the way that we feel like it is. It's all happening all at once, and you can jump in and out of timelines via milliseconds. So I don't know. I just feel like I need to get into it because it's absolutely wild. But I'm going to start with this question for you. What if the version of your life that you are dreaming about right now in this second is not actually in the future? What if it already exists? What if every single version of your life right now, the one where you get the thing, the one where you've made all of the money you could ever think of, where you've healed something that's really, really emotionally charged for you right now, where you've become the version of yourself that you wish you could be, is already real? Like the real you right now has all of those things right now, just on another timeline that exists parallel to this one right now. And what if the only thing you actually have to do to learn to jump is listen to this episode? Because I'm about to explain to you how to permanently rewire your brain to quantum leap in every moment of every day. And I'm about to blow your mind. So let's get into it. Okay, so let's start here. What is a quantum leap? Literally, what is it? I've got some notes here because, like I said, I really want to explain this clearly and in a way that you're actually going to grasp it. And I think that's one of my talents I've found since doing this podcast is being a teacher. I obviously have learned a lot about understanding how to explain concepts visually. And I really want to make sure that you can grasp this in your mind. It's a feeling that you'll get because we have memories, even though we come to Earth with amnesia a little bit about what actually is real and what's not real, because we're trying to have this game of a human experience. I do feel like the more that I've dived into spirituality, you get these gut feelings and these knowings that you just know something's true and you don't even know why. And you will start to feel that in this episode today. However, I really want your logical mind to also get on board and have ways and metaphors that's going to actually click for you. So in quantum physics, a quantum leap is the jump of a subatomic particle from one energy state to another instantaneously, without traveling through space in between. So when you're thinking of that, it does not gradually move, which is how we see time. It doesn't gradually move from one point to another. It doesn't slowly transition from one point to another. It just simply disappears from one state and reappears in another. There is no in between. There is no journey. There's no lag. It's instantaneously from one particle to another. And that is where the concept comes from. And when we apply it to our lives, a quantum leap is the idea that you can jump from one version of your reality to another one without having to go through every single little step in between. And I just want to say, this is not made up. This is not purely spiritual. This is actual quantum mechanics. Okay, so I want to explain the multiverse and infinite timelines. So quantum physics gives us something called the many worlds interpretation, which is proposed by the physicist Hugh Everett in 1957. And so the idea is that every single decision, every single moment, every single possibility actually splits into a parallel reality. So right now, there are infinite versions of you existing simultaneously on infinite timelines. And the version of you that said yes to that opportunity, or the version that said no, the version that started the business, the version that didn't, the version that is already living your dream life, all of them exist right now simultaneously. And this, like I said, is not a spiritual concept someone made up to sell a course of some kind. Like, this is a legitimate interpretation of quantum mechanics that many physicists take very seriously and are studying right now very seriously. And the metaphor I like to think of is, I want you to think of it like you choose your own adventure book. So every page has multiple options. Every choice leads to a completely different story, but all of those stories exist within the same book at the same time. You are just choosing which page you turn to. Okay, but here is the thing that nobody talks about, and what I think has really helped it click for me is that you are already quantum leaping. And I think people think, like, you've quantum leaped, or you've had like the privilege of doing it, or how do I do it? And this is the thing about manifesting, when people are like, I'm manifesting this right now, or whatever. It's like, no, you are manifesting and you are quantum leaping every single millisecond of every single day. Like, you are constantly shifting timelines, constantly, without stopping, without even realizing that you are doing it. Every thought, every feeling, every decision is a consistent timeline shift, because there is no such thing as time. So we're constantly, it's malleable, it's constantly moving its energy. And so you are never actually fully standing still. The universe never is stuck in one place. The universe and energy is constantly transmuting, because that's one of the laws of the universe, is that energy isn't still. Energy is constantly in motion. And so you are always moving between different versions of reality. And so the problem is not that you cannot quantum leap, or you need to learn how to do it, I guess. It's the problem is that most of us are jumping in and out consistently of the exact same timeline on repeat over and over and over again, like a song stuck on loop. Like, you're constantly doing the same thing. For example, you wake up and you have those exact same thoughts, and you have the exact same feelings, and you make the same decisions, and you're just on autopilot, and that's going to give you the exact same results. And then you wake up and you do it again, and the universe goes, got it, same order, coming right up. Like, it's consistently, you're still shifting timelines. You're never stuck, but you're shifting in a very similar or same timeline consistently. The metaphor that really helps me understand it is, I want you to think of it like a GPS that keeps recalculating, but to the same destination over and over again. So you can change the route hundreds of times, but if the destination saved in the system is still the old address, you're just always going to end up back in the exact same place. So the quantum leap is not about learning how to shift timelines, because you're already shifting timelines. You're naturally doing it every single day. It is about learning how to shift to a different timeline than the one that you're currently in, and doing that consciously instead of subconsciously. So it is about changing the destination in the GPS. And the destination is always set by simply your dominant frequency, your most practiced thoughts, your most familiar feelings, your most deeply held beliefs about who you are and what is available to you. I want you to think about your patterns right now and what your day looks like. Like, what is the money pattern that you keep repeating? Because we love to think with our minds that we feel good about money, we feel good about our job, we feel good about our opportunities in life, and we are manifesting. But be honest with yourself with the patterns that are looping behind the scenes in your frequency, in the energy that you give things without logical thought. So like I said, the money pattern that keeps repeating, the relationship dynamic that you keep showing up as, the way that opportunities might come to you and then fall away, like, all of this is you jumping to the same timeline on loop, because the frequency that is running underneath everything has not changed at all. Even if you're saying certain thoughts or you're feeling certain things, unless your pattern frequency within yourself changes, you will not feel that large quantum leap that you're after. And the moment you change your frequency, you completely change the destination. And then suddenly, it doesn't take effort or time or hard work or whatever it is that you think it needs to be in order for you to get from point A to point B. You can quite literally, like I said, in a millisecond, quantum leap into whatever the fuck timeline you want, whatever reality you want. It is possible. Nothing is impossible. And I need you to really sit with that, because I think sometimes, and I get caught in this too, you go, I'm sure you're probably thinking, she's delusional. How can you just go from broke to rich within a millisecond? You can, but you don't believe it to be true, because if you're right now sitting there second guessing the fact that you believe it's true, of course it's not going to happen for you, because your frequency is emitting and broadcasting that energy. And like energy attracts like energy. Physically, energy that is different from one another cannot close the gap. They cannot connect. And so if you want to quantum leap into a version of your reality that feels vastly different from yours right now, you have to show up in your frequency vastly different to how you're showing up now. Because the more you show up in the same frequency, the more you're going to get the same thing back. And so if you're currently feeling like this is delusional, like how is this actually possible though? Like it's impossible. Like things have to change. Like objects around you have to move. It's not magic. You can't just click your fingers and things change. You kind of can. It's not like magic where you literally click your fingers like a genie and then everything appears. But things can work fucking fast in the universe. Let me tell you. Like it's only been like just a couple of months ago, really. I had barely any followers. I didn't have any podcasts. I didn't have any best-selling lists, anything like that. Within just weeks, I had the most wild success that takes people years and years. And I thought it would take me years. So it does move fast. It's just different to how sometimes we can perceive it. Okay, so like I said before, time is not linear. It is not what we think it is. Let's get smart here. All right. Einstein's theory of relativity already proved that time is not fixed. Time literally moves differently depending on your speed and your gravitational field. At the quantum level, time becomes even stranger because particles can appear to travel backwards in time, which means that cause and effect actually get quite blurry and the past and the future are not as separate as it feels like they are. And the block universe theory in physics suggests that the past, the present, and future all exist simultaneously like a block of ice where every moment, and I love this analogy, where every moment is frozen in one place at the same time. We just experience it linear because of the way our consciousness moves through the ice. Okay, I want you to think of this metaphor. Think of it like a movie. The movie already exists in its entirety. Every scene, all of the ending, every single version of the movie is already laid out. It's already there on the reel, and you are just the projector light moving through it so you can skip to a different scene. You can jump forward. The scene already exists. You just have to land on it. And yes, that analogy works well for like one movie, but remember there's infinite movies of your life. There are infinite, your character, my character Molly, this avatar that I decided to be, she has infinite possibilities, infinite realities. I am the universe. I'm the universe experiencing itself. So I actually physically can have and do and be whatever the fuck I want in any moment of every day because I am infinite. I'm infinite source energy. And so when you're thinking of it like a movie, like that one movie scene, I don't want you to think of it as like one movie, like this is what my life's going to look like and I can just jump in and out. It's like a big movie of every infinite version of what I could possibly do with my life by each tiny little decision I make and how that can have the ripple effect on me. I can physically project my light into my movie of the version like Molly the Avatar and just skip to any different scene, forward, backwards, here, there, or everywhere, whenever I want to be any version of what is possible for me. This means that the future you want is not something you are actually creating or you're becoming. It already exists right now. So you don't have to stress about whether it will or won't happen. It already has happened. Everything that you can think of has already happened. It's just about tuning into it, like finding a radio station that's already broadcasting it. You just have to match the frequency. That's all you have to do. You do not have to trust whether things are going to be right or wrong or whether it is going to work out or it's not going to work out. A version of me is a global author that is so well known around the world. There is a version of me who is still a school teacher and scared to speak up. There are infinite versions of me. There's a version of me who's got 10 kids. There's a version of me who's got no kids. We all have possible reactions and we just ripple effect through energy based on how we show up and then how we take audacity on those actions and show up in the physical material world to make those things happen. All right, now we're going to get into the observer effect, which I have mentioned before on the podcast, and it absolutely is the most mind-bending science of all. So in quantum physics, the double slit experiment is one of the most famous, and the most trippy experiments ever conducted. I'm sure you've heard of it if you're listening to this podcast. When electrons are fired through two slits, they behave like waves. So spreading out in all directions, existing in multiple places at once, infinite possibility. But the moment a scientist observes or measures which slit the electron goes through, it all collapses. It stops being a wave of infinite possibility and becomes a single particle in a single location. And so the act of observation literally changes the outcome. The universe behaves differently when it is being watched. I know this is trippy as fuck. Before you observe your reality, before you look at your bank account, before you check your engagement statistics, before you measure your results, you actually exist in a state of infinite possibility. Like I said before, like anything's possible. The moment that you look at it though, you collapse it into one specific reality. And this happens millisecond by millisecond. So whether you're thinking of lack or not yet or not enough, you've just chosen which reality that you've stepped into and that you're living in. And so I want you to think of it like a magic 8-ball. Before you shake it, all answers exist already simultaneously, right? You know that. Like all the answers are already there. But the moment that you look, one answer appears. So your observation chose it. You are doing this with your life every single morning when you wake up and check your phone. And this is why the 3D evidence conversation is so important, which is what I did on the podcast last week. So every single time you look at the evidence of your life in your physical material world and confirm the lack, you are literally collapsing infinite possibility into the one reality you do not want. And so every time you choose not to look, or you choose to look and interpret it differently, observe it differently, you are keeping the field of possibility open. Okay, now I want to dive into more so now what the ancient wisdom already knew, because I do love science. Don't get me wrong. I love that my logical brain can grasp it and that I can, kind of convince people a bit better. But, when we look back in time, when we look at the history, we can see that a lot of our ancient ancestors and spirituality already knew these things long before science. And when you dive into this a little bit more, knowing the science, it really does click into place even more. And here is what blows my mind. Like I said before, quantum physics is relatively new and it's still being studied all of the time. But the spiritual traditions of the world have been saying this for thousands and thousands of years. And so like when we think of Buddhism, I love Buddhism. I've read quite a few books on Buddhism, especially in motherhood. So if you guys are interested in that, I've actually been finding that really interesting. And in Buddhism, it's the concept of impermanence. And so nothing is fixed. Nothing is solid. Everything is a constant state of flux and possibility. And reality is not what it appears to be. Sound familiar in quantum physics? And then ancient Vedic philosophy is the concept of Maya. So the physical world is an illusion. Sound familiar? What we see is not ultimate reality. There is a deeper layer beneath it. And then our manifesting guru, the OG, Neville Goddard, is one of the most influential manifestation teachers of the 20th century. And oh my God, I've loved diving into his work. So he taught that consciousness is the only reality, right? So that the physical world is simply the outpicturing of your internal state. So that like a mirror, so that you can live in the end. So the feeling of the wish fulfilled and watch the physical world rearrange itself to match it. And he also talks a lot about revision, as in like the past isn't actually real. You can actually go back. So if we're thinking of your present moment and the dreams you have for your future and the past that you have experienced, you can actually go back and revise the past and change the timeline that you're on so that that past version of you never actually happened or it happened differently. So very similar to this idea of quantum physics. So when we think of all these ancient traditions, it's like this is all just quantum leaping in spiritual language. And I love now that we have a bit of a science to back up all of this spiritual language that people have been talking about for years. All right, so let's get into the practicality of it now, the practical guide on how to actually quantum leap. And like I said, you're already doing it without realizing it, but I'm going to teach you how to consciously do it and just kind of how I've managed to do such big quantum leaps recently. And so step 1 is I want you to get clear on which timeline you are actually jumping to, because you cannot jump to a destination that you cannot physically see. So most people are very vague. And like I have been vague in manifestations before, but my frequency is not vague. It's very locked in and it's like this deep knowing and this deep feeling of something that's hard to put into words. but it has to be specific enough. It can't just be, I want more money. I want to be successful. I want like a relationship. Like your quantum leap needs to have a specific frequency and feeling to it. Not necessarily like a number or a situation that you are forcing, but a specific feeling and an identity around it. And the way that I do this is these questions like, who is she? What does she believe about herself? How does she move through the world? What is her relationship with money, with her body, with her work, with other people? Like it's all about those feelings. So you're not necessarily thinking about, I want $15,000 a month in my bank account from my business. It's more like, what is the relationship? What is the feeling? What is the frequency of the woman who has those things? And so the practical tool is, I want you to write a day in the life of the version of you on the timeline you are jumping to. And you can get like AI or ChatGPT or whatever to help you script this for you. So from the moment she wakes up to the moment she goes to sleep, what does she eat for breakfast? How does she feel when she opens her laptop? How does she respond when something goes wrong? What does her inner dialogue sound like? And the more specific the frequency, the easier the jump. And I really quite enjoy using AI and ChatGPT to create this because obviously, like I'm a great writer. I like writing, but I'd find a lot of people aren't so great at getting into the sensory detail of something like this. And frequency is very sensory because like we are in a material world. We're here to have a human experience in a physical reality. And so when you use ChatGPT, you can utilize prompts to make it really sensory. So you can like taste it, you can hear things, you can feel things, you can smell the air, and all of those feelings start to get your frequency and your imagination lit up in a really tangible way so that you can actually feel the quantum shift. Okay, step 2 is we're going to collapse the old timeline. And this is something that I struggled with a lot in the past and why I think I didn't quantum leap as fast as I wanted. So every quantum leap also requires you to leave something behind. And so you cannot jump into a new timeline while dragging the old one with you, which is what I often used to do. The old timeline has its own identity. It has its own beliefs. It has its own stories. I'm someone who always struggles with money. I'm not the kind of person who goes viral. Good things don't happen for people like me. I could never be X, Y, and Z, whatever it is. These are not truths. These are timeline anchors that you created for yourself, and they will keep you stuck on the old frequency if you do not consciously choose to leave them behind. And the answer of how to do this is shadow work. I'm actually being trained in shadow work at the moment and I'm obsessed with it. You have to find the belief and you have to trace it to its root. You understand where it came from, and then you can consciously choose to no longer carry it as truth. And you can actually do a lot of shadow work. Like, there's so many coaches out there, and I'm also coaching in shadow work at the moment. So you can always come and get coached by me to get to the root issues of things. However, I also use ChatGPT a lot to be able to help me understand what the root cause of certain problems are, or even asking someone else, a friend, someone that you can trust, because when you're in an emotionally charged situation, it's often hard to figure out what's underneath the surface. But when you're removed from it and you're detached from it, someone else can typically see things in ways that you cannot see, or like you're in your avatar. When they're not in your avatar, they can see you for what it is, a lot more clear. But deep down, you will always know. Okay, the metaphor I like to think of for this is, I want you to think of it like you're upgrading an operating system. So you cannot run the new software on the old system. You have to actually delete the old files first. And so shadow work is the deleting process. And once those files are cleared, the new software just runs perfectly. And so the practical tool I want you to do is I want you to write down the top 3 beliefs the old timeline version of you holds about herself. So then write the opposite. The opposite is the belief that lives on the timeline you're jumping to. And I want you to read it every single morning until your nervous system stops flinching at it. I want you to give that a go, a really red hot crack. Ooh. All right, step 3, you need to embody the new timeline now. This is where it gets very real. So the quantum leaping is not a passive activity. It has to be an active embodiment practice. What I've done so much in the past, pretty much my whole life up until the past few years, is I loved using my imagination and going to really wild places in my imagination and truly believing that that's possible for me, which was me seeing the future, basically. It's almost like a mini version of deja vu because we have, like I said, access to infinite possibilities. So when I'm dreaming or daydreaming about versions of my life, that's actually me looking like a projector screen into that reality of my life. However, the puzzle piece that was missing, the big important piece, was the active embodiment part, which was actually taking physical material action in the real world to make those things a reality and to start to shift my actual energy in the day-to-day, not just when I close my eyes and think about it, but in my actual day-to-day reality, shifting energy for the quantum leap to actually start to occur. And so when we think about our nervous system, and I know everyone talks about the nervous system at the moment, but your nervous system needs to actually believe, that's the biggest part, is that you have to actually believe that the jump has already happened before the physical reality catches up. And if you've ever quantum jumped, you'll feel this. You feel like you're different. You feel different. Reality feels strange in a way that you just know things are about to up level. And then all of a sudden it does, and everything catches up, and it catches up effing fucking fast, really fast. And I don't want you to think that this is like, and I know you probably think I'm delusional, because if I listened to this 3 or 4 years ago, I would be like, she's so delusional. But it's not pretending, and it's not bypassing things and, acting, delusional. It's actually just deliberately using your frequency to recalibrate your reality. That's all it is. And the practical tools for this is like scripting from the new timeline. So I want you to write as if you are already there. I'm so grateful that it is so incredible to look back and remember what I used to worry about. I also like to do in the morning, you say like, how would she show up today? So instead of like writing all of the future, like how would she show up? Like actually show up in your current day, like your current to-do list, what you would do, what you have to do in your present day, but writing it as if you are her and you've traveled back in time. And that's how I kind of like to see quantum leaping is I like to see the version of me that has the thing that I want, and she's actually traveled back to the present moment to watch it unfold in real time. So Molly who has a podcast that is #1 on the charts, for example, she's actually traveled back into this avatar of Molly. So I'm now that version of me, but my current reality hasn't caught up to who I am yet. And I'm like playing a game and watching it unfold in front of my eyes, knowing that it already happens in the future because I've seen it because I was there. So that's kind of how I like to do the scripting kind of practice. Obviously, there's so many embodiment meditations as well. You close your eyes, you drop into your body, and you feel what it feels like to already be on that new timeline. I would do that first, and then you kind of get into the scripting afterwards so that you can really understand and feel into the frequency of that version of you. And you might get some downloads and some ideas from your future self trying to connect and talk with you and your higher self as well. However, the important part is actually acting as her once you open your eyes. And that's what I used to struggle with a lot. And when I say act as her now, what I used to struggle with this concept is like, but like I can't act as her now because I don't have the results, I don't have the money, I don't have the resources, I don't live in that area, I don't have those whatever it is in the physical material world. But the material world isn't as real as we think it is. And I know I sound so effing delusional, guys, I know, but the more you do this, the less delusional it feels. But it is all kind of just like a projection screen. So like your reality isn't as real as it seems. And it's all about, life is all about feeling, life is all about what it feels like inside. And then the external world literally reacts and mirrors back to you. And so what I mean by showing up as her today is like even in the smallest, most authentic way available to you right now, like would she spend 10 extra minutes on herself this morning? Would she send that email that she's been putting off? Would she post that thing that she's scared to post? Like those little things add up, and that's what's going to quantum shift and quantum leap you, because you can't wait for the external to catch up so that you show up first, and then the external world reflects back to you who you are being, because you're stepping into different timelines every single time you make a decision on what you want to do. Another beautiful practical tool is oracle cards, because oracle cards, allow you to kind of talk and communicate with your higher self and with your future timeline versions of you. So sometimes I'll do a card pull for a client or for myself. And when I'm pulling it, I will ask for my future timeline that has the thing that I'm currently manifesting to come through in the reading and give me the card of the next step that I need to move forward with, or just some like guidance or advice and synchronicities to help me kind of lock into what I need to know to step into that version of me. So oracle cards are really beautiful for that as well, because sometimes our minds can get very messy and very chaotic in there, and it's hard to differentiate what's your mind and what's your soul. And oracle cards really do help differentiate that for you. Okay, now step 4 is hold the field open. Remember the observer effect. The moment that you collapse the field into the old reality, you slow down the jump. So this means you need to stop measuring, you need to stop checking, you need to stop looking for the evidence that the jump is working or whether it's not working. You have to know that you are the person of your future in your present moment right now, because you can be anyone you want. So if you feel like a billionaire that has gone back in time and gets to experience becoming a billionaire for the first time, that's how you act. So instead of thinking of yourself as someone who has $10 in her bank account, you think of yourself as, I am Molly, the billionaire that has traveled back in time to experience what it feels like to have $10 in her bank account and see herself become successful. Like, that's how you have to picture it. And so you can't keep checking that it's working. You need to know that you are that billionaire and you're just enjoying the process of it unfolding. So every time you catch yourself checking the old timeline, whether that's your bank account, your follow account, your relationship status, whatever it is, you need to consistently redirect it until you don't have to do it anymore and it becomes a pattern or a habit. I do not check for evidence anymore. I just know who I am. I know I know that I can be anyone anyway. So I'm literally just living with such detachment and such surrender, knowing that I'm in transit for whatever future I want for myself at any moment of any day. And so the metaphor that's been helping me with this too is think of it like a plane mid-flight. So you've taken off, you've done that part, and you have left the old destination, but you've obviously not landed yet. But you don't need to open the door mid-flight and look for the ground to make sure that it is still there. You don't need to, you trust the flight. You trust the flight, you stay in your seat and you enjoy the journey, knowing that the landing is guaranteed. And that's how I want you to think of it. The jump is happening. The delivery is on its way right now. Your only job is to stay in the frequency of the new timeline while the physical world catches up. Now, step 5 is look for evidence of the jump. This is the fun part. Once you've made the decision to jump and you are holding the frequency, I want you to start feeling into the breadcrumbs and the knowings. So not the final destination and not proof that it's going to work out. You know it is, but looking for all of the little things that the universe sends you, like all the little breadcrumbs, all the synchronicities, all the unexpected conversations, the doors that open, the ideas that drop in, the signs. I love signs. All of those little things, be hyper aware of them. And really lean into when they do happen, like lean right in and actually feel that properly. Because often we just are on autopilot and we don't realize that every second of every day there are signs and synchronicities being sent to you in this game of life. And you either listen or you don't listen. And so really starting to become hyper aware of what's going on around you and what every single thing that happens to you is a lesson and it's teaching you something. It's mirroring back to you how you're showing up. So every little conversation, every time someone triggers you, every single time something doesn't go your way or something does go your way, be really open about what it's teaching you and using that as evidence to figure out what timeline you're currently on. All right, so to bring it home, you are not stuck on this timeline. You are never stuck on a timeline. There is no law of the universe that says you have to keep living in the version of your life you're currently living. Anyone that tells you that is fast asleep in this game of life. They haven't realized they're even in a game in the first place. The life you want is not hypothetical. It is not in the future. It is real. It exists and it is broadcasting on whatever frequency you decide to become right now, in the right here and right now. A quantum leap is not luck. It's not a miracle that happens to some people. It is a deliberate, conscious, energetic decision to stop operating from the old version of your code and to jump fully, completely, irreversibly into the next one. Not only does the science say it's possible, the ancient wisdom says it's possible. Your higher self already knows it's possible because she's already living it on the other side of the jump, and you've came to this podcast for a reason. So you know for a fact that quantum leaping must be, there's a part of you that knows that it's fully real and that it's possible for you. You are already shifting timelines every single millisecond. You always have been. The only difference between where you are right now and where you want to be is the destination you keep looping on repeat. Change the frequency, you change the destination every single time. What you focus on expands. And watch the millisecond by millisecond jumps start landing somewhere completely new, and your whole world and the fabric of your reality change before your eyes. So the only question I'm going to leave you with is this. Are you ready to leave your current old timeline behind? Because the version of you that already has everything you want, she is ready for you to step into her right now. She is waiting for you to jump. You have to believe. You just have to believe. I hope you loved this episode, everyone, and that I kind of helped explain it in a way that you understand. If this did help and you really did understand it, please send me an Instagram DM and tell me what resonated with you. These podcasts light me up so much and they make me so happy to know that they're helping someone. So please don't feel weirded out. Like, I love and I read every single DM. So please, please, please reach out if it's helpful and send this to someone who is kind of going through one of those moments where they're not where they want to be in life and they're ready to quantum leap into a bigger, better version of themselves. And as always, like, subscribe, and do all the things that you do with your podcasts. And I can't wait to see you next week. Also, come on my Instagram as well and just DM me anything you want me to talk about on the podcast, because I've kind of got all my really fun ideas out now that I really wanted to do for a long time. And now I'm just getting creative. So if there's anything specific that you would love to hear from me, please hop on and give me some suggestions. I would love that. But I will see you all next week, my loves.